What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at the Sunshine Cup. It is on for the very first week of the new season of Delightful Days. It includes Pokemon at or below 1500 CP. Only normal fire, grass, and ground type Pokemon are eligible, and Charizard is banned. So we're going to take a quick look at the meta, but before we take a look at the meta, I actually have a quick announcement. I made an announcement about this just like through a text channel, but I'm actually going to GoFest in Jersey City. I'm very excited. It's the first GoFest that I've ever been able to attend, so I'm very excited to do that. Yeah, if you see me, don't be afraid to say hi. I'm just going to be there Sunday. That's the only day. But yeah, without further ado, let's hop into the video. We've got the meta here, the top 20 rankings. We have Cradily, Gligar and Shadow Gligar at 2 and 3, Magcargo, Talonflame, Shadow Swampert, Shadow Jumpluff, there's the Shadow Cradily, Diggersby, Gliscor, Clodsire, Shadow Quagsire, regular Quagsire, Shadow Ninetales, regular Swampert, Furret, Skeleturge, Shadow Diggersby, Shadow Galaric, and Jumpluff. And I think you can already tell just from the meta analysis here that this is going to be a very condensed meta. So if you have the opportunity to play the Open Great League this week, I highly recommend it. But if you like limited metas because you think it's easier to understand, especially if you're like a newer player, then let's take a look at 10 top teams. I think I've actually got 11 for you. So the first team we're going to take a look at is a pretty meta version of a line where we have the Talonflame plus Cradily core. That core is really strong even in the Open Great League, so in this meta it's going to be even stronger. We're going to be using Furret as our safe switch, and notice that Furret is actually on Brick Break in this meta, and that's because you're going to notice as we go through that a lot of Pokemon in like the higher rankings are weak to fighting. There's a good amount of them, so Furret opting for Brick Break there might offer some nice coverage and boosting those Sucker Punches to really increase that damage. It is kind of an ABB style team because we do have a like double weakness to fighting in the back, but there's really not that many fighters in this meta. They're kind of non-existent, but the team building idea behind this team is that Cradily is weak to ice, it's weak to fighting, it's weak to bug, and it's weak to steel. Talonflame resists all of those except for ice, which it neutralizes with the fire typing, and of course you have Incinerate to hit for super effective damage there. The next team we're going to take a look at is Shadow Swampert, Gligar, and Farfetch'd. This team is pretty similar to one that you might see in the Open Great League like 10 seasons ago, because you have basically your Mudboy plus your Flyer core. That core has been absolutely everywhere all the time. So on this team, we're covering Swampert's only weakness, which is a double weakness to grass, with Gligar and Farfetch'd. Gligar is just a solid safe swap, and generally neutral across the meta as long as it can avoid ice, of course, because it has a double weakness there. Swampert helps with the ice by neutralizing that damage with its water typing. And then Farfetch'd in the back, also weak to ice, but has great coverage and pacing. It has Fury Cutter and Air Cutter for the grass, and then it has Leaf Blade for the water, ground, and rock types in this meta. It is a Hundo XL heavy mon, so really any flyer would work in its place if you don't have a Farfetch'd. I don't have a Farfetch'd, but I think it would be a cool pick, and it's very highly ranked for a limited meta. The next thing we're going to take a look at includes the Magcargo Shadow Jumpluff core. This core is always solid. Magcargo, it's weak to fighting, it's weak to ground, it's weak to water, and it's weak to rock. Flygon is just kind of neutral into all of those, of course, but it resists rock, which is handy because that's the only weakness Jumpluff shares with Magcargo. And then coverage run, yeah, it can also run Scorching Sands if you want to opt for that like super effective rock coverage. However, it looks like it wants to run Stone Edge in this meta, and that's most likely just because of the ice. If you safe safe swap Flygon. It's neutral into pretty much all of the meta except for ice. And if you bait out an ice, you can grab a shield with Stone Edge, which is pretty huge. And also we have a double weakness to ice in the back with Jump Fluff. So that is good there, because if you bait out an ice, you can punish it with Magcargo, and then Jump Fluff roams free in the back. And it can nuke with the Shadow and the Acrobatics, so you can just kind of sweep there. The next team we're going to take a look at is a double Zyre team. We've got Lurantis with the buffed Fury Cutter, which now has insane damage and insane pacing. It already had insane pacing, but now the damage on this thing is going to be pretty incredible. You just have to cover its weaknesses, which are a little tough for this meta. It's weak to fire, poison, bug, flying. So we've got 2 ground type Stone Edge users in the back to try and cover all of those weaknesses. It's also weak to ice, which, I mean, Quagsire can neutralize because of its water typing, and then Clodsire is just so bulky. And it has Poison Sting for like Abomasnow and Stone Edge. So the trickiest thing for this team would probably be like a Piloswine, but overall pretty strong team there. The next team we're going to take a look at is Fletchinder, Furfrou, and Drampa. Now, Fletchinder got a buff this season with Ember getting improved in its energy generation. It can replace Talon because it does have slightly better bulk. So in some niche situations, maybe you want to run Fletchinder, but realistically you don't. You could just replace Fletchinder with Talonflame. That said, it actually creates a great core with Drampa, of all things, because Drampa is a dragon normal, which means it's weak to fighting, it's weak to fairy, it's weak to ice, and it's weak to dragon. And as a fire flying type, Fletchinder covers fighting, fairy, and ice, and then dragon is neutral for Drampa anyways. And then we also have a normal type on the safe swap to lure out its fighting weakness in case there are any on the opposing team. And then we also have Surf for coverage for Furfrou there for Magcargo, because Magcargo might be a little bit tricky for this team, especially for Fletchinder. Drampa, it's more neutral-ish. It's just the fact that your charge moves are walled, so that can be a little bit tricky, but it is workable with this backline. The next team we're going to take a look at is Shadow, Bibarel, Victory Bell, and Runerigus. This is an ABC style team with Bibarel on the lead, weak to fighting, electric, and grass. Victory Bell, as a grass poison, beats all 3 of those typings. And then Runerigus in the back beats electric and fighting, as well as the most common grass, because the most common grass is now running acid, and acid is a poison type fast move, which is double resisted on the ghost ground typing of Runerigus. So believe it or not, Runerigus beats Cradily in the 0 and 1 shield scenario. So overall, I think this team has a lot of strengths. Runerigus gives it the bulk that it needs, because otherwise you'd have a very glassy team, but the Bibarel plus Victory Bell core is very strong as well. The next game we're going to take a look at is Abomasnow, Clodsire, and Swampert. Abomasnow looks like a great core breaker for this meta, breaking up like the Mudboy plus Cradily cores. So we've paired it with Clodsire and Shadow Swampert to cover its main weakness, which is a double weakness to fire. It also struggles against poison, so having 2 grounds in the back there also helps. But yeah, I think as long as you cover its weaknesses with basically either dragon or water, which just to cover your fire weakness, then I think you're going to be okay. And of course, Clodsire with Stone Edge and Earthquake can hit all flyers for super effective damage. So decent core here. The next team that we're going to take a look at is a bit of a spicy one, but also a cool one. So when you're taking a look at Shadow Hippowdon, I noticed that the rankings don't accurately represent its moveset for this meta. So you're going to see Shadow Hippowdon ranked 65 with Sand Attack, Weather Ball Rock, and Scorching Sands. What's weird about this is that it has a 12 and 18 record with Sand Attack against this meta, which isn't good, which is why it's ranked 65. But it also learns Ice Fang, and Ice has fantastic coverage in this meta. So if you give it Ice Fang, it suddenly goes 15 and 15 with a positive average. So definitely run Ice Fang to catch your opponents off guard, and then just cover its weakness to water and ice with like Cradily and Bibarel in the back, and you've got a very strong team here. The next team we're going to take a look at is Cradily, Diggersby, and Piloswine. Now, of course, on paper, this team is triple weak to fighting, but like I've said a couple times already, there's not really any fighters in this meta. So the idea behind this team is Piloswine doesn't really want to see water, but it's also weak to grass and also has trouble with other ice types. So we have Diggersby on the safe swap to lure out the weaknesses of Piloswine, and if it lures out like an ice or a grass, then boom, it has super effective Fire Punch for coverage, which is great. It's also so bulky that it makes matchups with Mudboys close too, which is kind of just crazy. And then if you bait out a Mudboy, that's great because Piloswine doesn't have to see it, and you can punish it with Cradily, and then you have some much needed bulk between Cradily and Diggersby to allow yourself to like run with Piloswine in the back with 2 shields if you want. That is pretty cool. And then Cradily and Piloswine, as you can see just by the PV poke matchups, create a pretty strong core on their own. Second to last team we're going to take a look at is, you know how I just said there aren't really any fighters? Kind of. So Magmar is kind of a fighter. It's a karate chop user. It's not a stab fighting type Pokemon. So it's not great. You'll notice that like in a lot of the matchups where Pokemon have a fighting weakness, some of them it's still losing. So it's kind of a fraud in terms of a fighter. There are other fighters like there's Chestnut and there's Breloom, but they're so poorly ranked. The uniqueness about Magmar is that it is a pretty decent core breaker, and it does have good potential. It's just very glassy. That said, we've paired it with Cradily to cover its weaknesses and provide some bulk, as well as a Mudboy and Swampert in the back to really put on the charge move pressure with this team, and then we're just kind of going for an overload strategy with so many charge moves that your opponent needs to worry about. The final team we're going to take a look at is a little bit spicy. We have Turtonator on the lead, which is batting against your Mudboys, of course, and then it also would have trouble against other dragons. And your rock types as well, I guess. So we have a grass fairy to cover those weaknesses in Whimsicott in the back, and then Spinda as a safe switch, which has phenomenal coverage for this meta and a really great moveset. It has Sucker Punch, it has Rock Tomb, it has Icy Wind. All those are really, really good. And then between Rock Tomb and Icy Wind, you can hit pretty much all of Turtonator's losing matchups for super effective damage. It's crazy. Like if we just go down the list, Turtonator weak to apparently loses to Cradily. Guess what? Icy Wind is super effective. It loses to Magcargo. Guess what? Rock Tomb is super effective. Loses to Diggersby. Guess what? Icy Wind is super effective. Loses to clodsire. Guess what? Icy Wind is super effective. I think you get the picture. The coverage it has is really great for Turtonator, and then Whimsicott, obviously, just typing wise, creates a really great core. But yeah, that's 11 top teams for the Sunshine Cup. This cup will be returning later in the season, so if you don't want to play it now, that's fine. It's gonna come back. And then maybe I can like either repost this or you can come back to this video at a later date. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me from this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace.